Christine.
And welcome to Haircolor Confessional. Today we have a guest with us, Mr. Michael Crain, and he is a council member of the city of Fort Worth representing District 3. He's also a real estate broker, and he and his wife are the founders of Foodie Philanthropy, which partner with restaurants for an annual fundraising event for local charities, plus so much more you guys are going to learn today. We have a lot to talk to Michael about today. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Yes, of course.
We're so excited to see you.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
We have a load of questions.
Let's go. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the first question, which I didn't know this about you, but tell us about being the chief of staff at the embassy in Beijing, China.
It was a very interesting time. My wife and I were both in the George W. Bush 43 administration. And so I grew up here in Fort Worth, Texas, Eagle Mountain Lake, North Fort Worth, which I don't think was even part of Fort Worth back when I graduated high school, and went to A&M and then went up to DC for a couple of years, thought I was done with DC and moved back here and went to law school, what was Texas Wesleyan at the time, in the mid-90s, and then graduated, and it's now Texas A&M School of Law. And then our governor started running for president, and it sounded pretty fun. That was back in the late 90s. Yeah. So I jumped on the campaign and then eventually ended up in Washington and worked White House, different agencies, Health and Human Services. I worked at the inaugural, the re-elect, and then Department of Commerce. And then I was on a trip with the Commerce Secretary and met the ambassador, and he wanted someone to come over, and that was in 2005, and we got there in 2006. And so from 06 to 09, I was chief of staff at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing with the ambassador. That was in the build up to the Olympics. The 2008 Olympics happened while we were there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great time opening up in China.
Last 3 years of his term.
Yes,
I were there.
Yes, we spent there in Beijing, and then we got the wacky idea that we wanted to start a family, and had tried for a little bit, and then we decided to adopt.
Oh, wow.
So we adopted our twin 15-year-olds they're now 15, but they were 18 months when we got them, and then when it came time to educate them, we decided to move back here in 2014.
So in Beijing, you got them while you were there.
That's right, yeah, in 2010.
So, well, tell us about Beijing. I'm just so interested. I've always wanted to go to China, and people are like, why? But I really would love to see
the most billionaires.
So we'll see how with the economic crisis they're having now, how that all shakes out.
Look, what would you
It was a great time. We got there in 2006, and did not really know that much about China. It's just sort of the position I took. There was only 13 in the world, and they were tied to a political ambassador. And my ambassador named Sandy Rant had been there since the beginning. He was studied Mandarin, he was the first commercial attaché in Beijing in the 70s when there wasn't really an actual official relationship. And then he moved to Hong Kong, and he had been fraternity brothers with President Bush. And so that's how he kind of got the job, because he'd been such a supporter, but he spoke Mandarin and knew the culture, and so was there at the right time. But when I got there in 06, he was pretty well established as ambassador, but we knew the president had already announced he was coming for the Olympics. And I knew the White House, I knew the president, I knew all the people around him, so it was kind of a great fit for us. We were ready to leave Washington after the second administration, but we weren't ready to come back to Texas. And so I literally went home and said, Joanna, what do you think about this idea? And she didn't hesitate. She said, let's go. She fortunately had visited 4 times before with the previous Secretary of Commerce.
Okay.
And so she knew China, she liked it, and so we took off on an adventure.
So now when you're working for the embassy, do they house you and pick your housing, or do you get to go look and see where you want to live and all that? Because, not being a citizen there, how does that work?
Yeah, there is, some embassies have housing at the embassy. Beijing, it did not. So we were, I think, spread over about 12 or 14 different buildings, but yes, they picked our housing.
Okay.
And it has to do where you are with your rank and et cetera. If you need to be close to the international schools, we didn't have kids, so the international schools in Beijing are outside the city. So that didn't matter. So we were in the city, very close to a lot of different things, shopping areas. But yeah, they picked our building, and we lived in a building that had 24 floors, and the first 10 or 12 were people associated with the Japanese embassy, and then we had the top remaining floors that were the U.S. Embassy.
And you're just like free range, do whatever you want. You have to carry your passport with you all the time, or do you have security?
No, we didn't have, the ambassador didn't even have security because it's pretty safe there, and Joanna always felt very safe. We never felt safe. We didn't have a problem because we knew we were being monitored 24/7.
Oh,
So the
okay.
Chinese were watching us. We
just-
knew our apartment was bugged. We knew our phones or our Blackberries. I still had a Blackberry at the
Right.
time.
I was gonna.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were being spied on 24/7
For sure.
or bugged on? you
Yeah,
know?
no,
your-
it sends you for a loop for a little bit when you're first there, and in fact, when you first get there, the only time there's the tank, which are there's several of these in the embassy where you can have classified conversations. It's the only time the spouse is ever brought in, and they will give you a full debrief, and they'll tell you that don't be surprised that you're monitored. We just want to say you are monitored. They're monitoring your apartment. We couldn't sweep it. We'd have to sweep every apartment every day to get bugs out, et cetera. So just understand your conversations aren't private. They tell the guys that if you were ugly in the United States, you're still ugly in China. So if there's a Chinese woman that's starting, she's probably doing some counterintelligence.
Right.
But we mostly had, I remained ignorant about a lot of secret things just so I didn't have to, I was pretty, I was ignorant about it. So it wasn't ever an ability to compromise, but I knew a lot of different things. And we would have sometimes some conversations in the shower, my wife and I, to say, you have to this is what
Like
happened.
whispering.
So whatever.
Right. So nobody could hear you.
So nobody could hear you. But I'll tell you one of
Wow.
the things so we, pretty early on, it might have been our third or fourth day there. No one really knew us, et cetera. And the head of the, and remember my wife had traveled there a lot before, so clothes made and et cetera. So one of the first things we did within the first day was go to her tailor, and I'd use them too on a trip there, and start getting some shirts and suits made, whatever. And so we probably third or fourth day, fifth day in or something, the head of the consular section, that's who does all the visas, had invited us to his apartment. He lived 2 floors below us. And so we literally walked out of our door, the stairs were right there, walked downstairs, and went into the apartment. During dinner, the phone rings, and they answer it, and it's the desk downstairs, and they said, your tailor's here with your clothes. And so we both kind of looked at each other, we're like, okay. We hadn't told anybody. It was a last minute invite at the embassy, and we were walking out one day, and they were like, do you want to come tonight in a couple hours and have dinner? We're like, sure. But it was really, that's when we were like, okay, everybody knows what we're doing and knows where we are, and so you just have to be cognizant of that, for sure.
Did you have any scary experiences while you were there?
There were, I wouldn't say scary. I would say just continuing to, it made you appreciate the United States a lot more, where we have a lot of freedoms.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
let's be honest. We're being monitored by our phones now.
Right.
It's just not as a matter of state security. It's more to figure out how they keep marketing everything to us, right?
Pretty
Right.
much,
Yeah, but I wouldn't say scary. You just know you're always watched. Listen, the Chinese people themselves are very beautiful people.
Right.
It's the government that wants to control and wants
Right.
to understand what everybody's doing, and they still won't admit Tiananmen Square actually happened. Only because you have the ability to see, their internet's monitored, their phones are monitored. Every single major thing that we think of, like Google or Venmo or something, they have their own software that does that. Instead of Google, they use Baidu or whatever. And so they've set up, instead of Facebook, it's WeChat, but they have a ton of things in it. There's like seven or eight apps all put together. But that's a means just to control the people.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ever felt scared. I just knew I was being watched.
Yeah. So then you finish that job and you come back to the United States. Then what do you decide to do?
Well, yeah, I'm
Career-wise.
still probably trying to figure that out, actually, right? We left in 2014, and really, when I left the embassy in 09, I went to work for a law firm, consulting firm, doing inbound, outbound investment. But we adopted the girls in 2010. We wanted them to. We're having a great time. I mean, basically, when the embassy job, we knew it was ending. We knew the administration. Mine was tied to the Bush administration. So when Obama came in, we knew the job would be over. The ambassador's job would be over. But we wanted to stay. It was just an exciting time. We were mid-30s. Lots of entrepreneurs there, just doing cool things. And always people coming in and out. Washington, D.C. was a lot like this for us, too. Unlike here in Texas, people sort of they're here and they maybe went to school here and went to TCU and moved a few blocks away.
Right, and they've never left
They've
Tarrant
never
County.
left Tarrant County, et cetera.
Right.
That, the majority of the population in DC and then in Beijing, we're pretty used to always having to look and make sure we had new friends and think, because people were leaving, but they were from all over the world. So that was very cool for us too. But we wanted the girls we wanted to stay there. But sometime in around 2012, I remember asking Joanna, are we lifers here in Beijing? And that was a different question. We'd always ask ourselves, are we having fun here? Are we having a great time?
Right.
And frankly, if you know me, I'll have a great time anywhere. It doesn't matter where we are, I'm going to figure out how to have a great time. But that answer was different. And we both were like, no, we don't see ourselves here when we're 50, 60, 70, whatever it is. So then you start thinking about what your exit plan is going to be. And we knew in the back of our mind, we wanted the girls to be educated in the United States. I think if they were not they weren't Chinese, we probably would have been okay, if they were biologically ours there, having this, what they call third culture kids, that they live in a different culture than where they were born. But since they were Chinese, we knew we wanted them to understand America and understand what the values in the United States. And you couldn't get that unless you were here. So I remember having conversations across the board with leaders. I mean, Betsy Price was one of those at the time. Remember, she was relatively new as mayor. She'd been elected in 2011. But talking about all the vibrant things that were already happening in the city, and then you saw for the next decade all these great things that kind of happened. Restaurants like we're sitting here and bars that were popping up and just interesting things. So when I kept saying I want them raised in the United States, eventually it came to I want them raised as I was raised, and that really target. Then we said, well, we're talking about Fort Worth. Yeah. My wife had grown up in South Texas, born in Wyoming, but moved to South Texas when she was little. But she spent a decade here after going to TCU and then afterwards. So this was home for her too. So that made it easy for us. And then what did I do? We moved back without a job. My wife had a company helping executives travel to China, but I moved back and enrolled in the culinary school. And was doing some other things, and then eventually started working for Uber, doing all their public policy. So not driving, but representing from a policy perspective across Texas. And then working in the state legislature, trying to get a statewide bill through. And then that eventually, I left that in June of 2015 after the session was over, and then started real estate.
Okay, I was just going to ask you. Yeah. So when did you get into real estate after law school?
Yeah, I know. So it's funny. It's like everybody's like, oh, a lot of people don't know I'm a lawyer.
Right.
And I like to say I have a law degree. I don't like to be termed a lawyer.
Not only do you have a law degree, you have an MBA.
I do. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I got an MBA. I like to
And
learn.
you've got other certifications at TCU.
Yes, I got executive leadership.
It never stops.
Yeah. Someone at some point told me. Sometime around from your 20s to your 40s or so, you stop learning because you're working on your job and everything else, but you really stop. And so I've made a point that I've not stopped, where in a formal or informal, whatever it is, trying to learn. And in fact, I'm kind of a geek. I love docudramas or documentaries, but I'll be looking up information as they talk. I mean, it kind of drives my wife crazy a little bit as we're sitting there maybe in bed, and I'm like, oh, did you know this? And she's just trying to watch the movie. She's just trying to watch whatever it is.
But it intrigues you because then you're like, oh, I didn't know about that. Let me look that up.
It does. And I just, what they term a lifetime learner, I just enjoy learning about things and learning about people or et cetera. And I don't know how you could be a good leader or just even a good part of society if you're not always curious about different things and accepting of different things,
I think you should always be learning. You're correct on that.
You got to continue to learn.
Now you're a council member of District 3. What is your most challenging thing in that role? Most challenging thing for you?
Well, I think we're a growing city. I mean, I think the statistics are, we're close to 1 million people. The last census was about 956,000, but we add 20,000 people every year. So put in context, every 5 years we're adding 100,000 people to the city. So you talk about the growth. I mean, that's good in a lot of different ways for businesses that want to exist and set up. I mean, you need the population to make them survive. But you talk about the growth and the pressure on our infrastructure, what that looks like. Not only just, traffic in general, but you talk about, so those take big investments from the city. Which we're doing. You also talk about our aging infrastructure. You have a lot of cast iron pipes, and that's been a subject as of late because not only do they in freezes, but in extreme heat, which we've had, they start cracking, and that causes water loss, et cetera. So we have this whole balance of that we have to continue to keep up with our growth. And as I've said, you can either be in a dying city or a growing city. Which one do you want to live in?
Right.
And I think most people want to live in a growing city,
Right.
Because of what happens, your tax base, and what you're able to actually, just the amenities that you get as part of that. So for me, that's probably the hardest thing, is understanding and helping people understand that our growth is not necessarily always a bad thing. It is a good thing. I mean, and I think we're doing it right here in at least being cognizant of, I still think we're the biggest small town that exists.
Yes, for sure. I say that all the time.
Yes, that people, I think, love Fort Worth because of that culture piece of it. And so I think we're doing it and figuring out culture can be many different things to many different people. And you've got, obviously the Western heritage, but you have a growing, and I'm very happy about it, multicultural culture that exists in Fort Worth, that everybody can kind of find their place. And it doesn't mean everybody has a place everywhere. It means you find your own place and what you want, what you want to do, or what you want your family to understand or know, and that we can all coexist together and be Fort Worth.
Right. So we see you all over the place.
Literally.
I'm a mess. All over the place.
I'm a mess.
You are building relationships all over the place.
Yes.
So in District 3, where's your territory?
Yeah, so District 3, I like to say it's probably the most economically diverse district, because we go from TCU main campus, down into Tanglewood, and then south down into Mira Vista. And then we go around Tanglewood up north to where Central Market is, and then go west. So I pick up Ridgemar, and then I go all the way out to Walsh. So Walsh is part of Fort Worth, voluntarily annexed into the city of Fort Worth. And they're only in like phase 1, I think, of phase 5 phases of growth there. So, when you talk about, I've got gated communities, Montserrat, Montrachet, and I also have Las Vegas Trail area too.
Right.
So you talk about the disparities, and so whomever holds this position really has to be able to go into all of those worlds and understand people, and meet people where they are. So I can go have the conversations with the people that might live in the gated communities about what we're doing, the services we're providing, but I can also then go to the underserved or underrepresented pieces of the city and talk about what can we do to help, and what do they want to see for the community, and how do we provide those services to them as well.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's been great. I mean, we've got a great city. We've got to keep it that way, but we're managing all of those pieces and what that looks like.
And not only that, you're on the board of is it the Trinity Metro you're on the board of?
Yeah, something I didn't really realize when you run for this, there are all these other committees that are part of it, that they're either council committees or that with Trinity Metro. The mayor had asked me to serve as an appointee. We'd never had a Fort Worth City Council member on the Trinity Metro board, but Mayor Parker thought it was important to put someone there that understood all. We're still struggling with public transportation in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah,
right.
People love their cars.
They do.
And so they love to get in their car and go wherever it is. But as we look at that growth, what makes sense? And I understand that until it's more convenient to get on public transportation, people are still going to get in their cars. But if you look at other cities that have a robust public transportation, it really becomes a great attractor for tourism. It becomes, I'll say this, I jump on the TRE. If I have to go to Dallas, I really don't like to drive to Dallas.
Right. I was just about to say, I take the TRE every single time I go to American Airlines.
Yeah, for sure.
It's inexpensive. You don't have to worry about traffic. And
you might be able to vibe on the way while
you do whatever you want, sit and relax on the way there and on the way back. If you're going to see a concert, they will definitely wait till...
it's an hour afterwards, they'll leave it open.
Yeah. So it's I tell everybody, don't go pay $50 for parking and worry about traffic and have to wait 30 minutes to leave the parking lot.
Ride
the TRE.
Right. It's convenient, and it ends up being like kind of a party atmosphere because everybody's riding home from the concert or wherever you.
And then also to ride it to Grapevine.
I did that last weekend. We went to Great Fest, and they gave us an incentive to, let's see, it was $2.50 off. It was a $5 ride. They gave us $2.50 off, so we took it. Took us about 45 minutes to an hour duration. Got there, and then they gave us an additional $2 off of admission from a $10 ticket. And then we took it back, and there was a ton of people on there. It was a nice, quiet experience. It was really pleasant.
So, I mean, I think we're struggling, and until we figure that out, right now, what we have to admit is there's a huge population that needs it.
Yeah.
To get to their job, to put food on the table, et cetera. But that's not the only people that ride it. And we have now, if you are zip zones that are in certain zones, so TCU, et cetera, will get them around, and near Southside has zip zones, which is kind of like Uber or Lyft. It's ride share, but it's subsidized. So
and that'll take you to the TRE or whatever.
It'll take you to different places. So it's not only to end user places like TRE or to the station, but it'll zip you around
so it's
in those
like
areas.
Uber, but you're paying for like a bus pass.
Yeah, it's cheaper. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but it's definitely cheaper.
I didn't even know about
Yeah,
that.
it's an all day. So $5 paid for all day, and it was like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So I think we got on like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And we didn't stay on, we didn't stay out there till 3 a.m., but it was good until 3 a.m.
Yeah, good.
I was really impressed.
Yeah. So what we really have to have as a larger conversation are, how does Trinity Metro attract choice riders, the people that could get in a car, but they want to use public transportation. And right now, I don't think we're getting there as traffic becomes what it is.
Yeah.
Where people say, oh, okay, this might make sense for me. And so we'll continue to have those conversations.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And so you're also an advocate for Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, how did that happen?
Well, I mean, I've always loved the chamber, and I love all the chambers. We've got the downtown chamber, we've got the Black Chamber and the Hispanic Chamber. I was really fortunate last year, and this is, I guess, why I've become a really big advocate of them. Is there's a conference, National League of Cities, you're invited to as an elected official, and it's twice a year. So last year was at the one in, I guess it was Kansas City. And there was through the Kauffman Foundation with National League of Cities, there was a grant opportunity to build some capacity building project, implement some capacity building project in the community. And so it just happened to be that I attended the Hispanic Chamber, their annual lunch, and Annette had talked about that they want to start a small business program, et cetera. And that's exactly what I've been focusing on from the council perspective, is looking at small businesses. How do we cut down bureaucracy, make it faster, cheaper, and more attainable in a lot of different ways for small businesses? Because they're in my opinion, the backbone of our community. 80% of businesses are really small businesses. So when you start thinking about what we can do to help there, and anybody that's tried to open a business understands that our permitting process and everything else can be very, very, I don't know the best adjective I want to use, but tough. I'll just leave it at that. There's about a million I could use, but we've broken down some barriers. But when Annette talked about that, I went out and worked with the Kauffman Foundation and it was a $15,000 grant to help them stand up a small business education component. And there was about 10 or 12 people that went through it this last time, and they came out with skills you don't think, if you're starting a small business, maybe you have an idea, but you don't know how to implement it. But you also don't know about marketing. I mean, I'll get on social media. You don't know about the accounting piece of it. Paying bills, what that looks like, and even when I went to speak with them, they were just talking about credit. Like a bank won't loan to you without credit, but it's something they've never really thought about. And this group was English as a second language, so their base language was Spanish, and so. That was very exciting too, that they were setting up businesses. So it was really great. We gave them a recognition at council last week. So just congratulations to the Lanzar program. But to see that and do that capacity building, and so I've been a champion of the group for a long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you have an assistant that keeps a calendar for you on how you, like, this is what you're doing today, sir? Because how do you keep up with all of that?
Well, I do. I have a great person in my office named Daniel Mason. She has been wonderful. I think she wants to shoot me most days, for sure.
I imagine she's like, you can't do 10 things today.
It's true, because I say yes to everything. I say yes to everything. If that's why you see, someone asks me to go.
We're everywhere.
I mean, we kind of do that too. I mean, we've slowed down a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm only going to do this job for a period of time, and at some point it'll be someone else's to do and have the fun.
You best you possibly can.
And I don't know how you lead behind, sitting behind a desk or in an office. You have to be out there. You have to be talking to people.
And you have to be building relationships as well.
For sure. Yeah. And I love cheerleading good causes and being out there. That's a little bit of the ability that we have, is to spotlight great things and talk about great people. And so if people invite me to come do something, I will. And have fun doing it.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
right,
again, God gave me a little time on this earth, and I'm going to have fun doing it, and then I'm going home.
Use
so.
it up, right?
Yes,
So not
yes.
only do you do all this, you also have a podcast of your own.
That's true. That's true.
Right?
That's true. I do.
So when are you having us on your podcast?
I will on this next one.
Because you seem to do 3 at a time, and I'm like, man, that guy just keeps, going and going. Episode 20.
On the campaign, what I realize is that the city we have a lot of great things going on. And there's a lot of great things going on in the city, but we don't tell the stories very often. So that's thankful that y'all are doing this, and probably for the same reason, that there are interesting things to talk about and interesting things happening in Fort Worth. And really, when I moved away in 2000 and went to Washington, D.C., we were never coming back. And I alluded to this earlier, that there was just new joy de vivre that was happening here in Fort Worth, and people excited about this by 2011, 2012. And now what you realize is there's so much going on. There's so many things, and frequently I'm doing 3 or 4 events a night, starting and trying to hit and doing it just because I want to show support to all those. But it's just interesting everything that's going on and what's happening here. There's so much.
You got Clear Fork.
Yeah.
You've got near South Side. You've got the Stockyards.
Yeah.
You've got downtown.
Everywhere.
You've got all the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and that's the idea. That's the idea I had during the campaign, was we got to tell the story.
Yes.
And I didn't realize at the time. I just learned a few months before that the city of Fort Worth has a TV studio. It doesn't now because they shut down the Central Library. There will be one set up in the new City Hall when that's all open and running. But I remember having a conversation with Maddie as she was running at the time, and I said, you know what, I want to do like a podcast. I want to do a video podcast, and as part of this. And she goes, I want to do a podcast, just audio. And so so she's done her, Go Time in Fort Worth, and I've been doing Fort Worth Forward, as we call it.
Right.
And it's just bringing on interesting people to talk about what's going on in Fort Worth and what they're doing. And
you're bringing on so many different kinds of people, from nonprofit organizations to the Molly Penn lady, to different bands, Legacy 4.
Yeah.
There's a multitude of people that you've connected with.
Yeah, and there's still more to do. And I've gotten some themes. I did one on mental health, which I think we have to start talking more about.
Right.
Yeah.
This is actually Mental Health Awareness Month, and so that was exciting to focus on that, and that was ahead of some other things that had happened. But for me, just having that conversation is, we all have baggage, right? We all have issues. We all have problems. It's okay to talk about it.
Yeah. Right.
In fact, you should be talking about it more. So, and I
it
said this
that's
too.
part of therapy.
It's part of therapy. And listen, everybody's life that's on social media is not true.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say that. I know that everybody wants to do the smiley, happy,
They're the
this
highlights.
is great.
Those are the
but I
highlights.
see some of those people out, and I know where they really are, and they're really a mess.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's okay to say we're a mess.
Yeah.
It's okay to
Absolutely.
put those positive things out there, but it's also okay too to say, hey, I need help, and I need I want to explore more of those topics too, because it's just life.
Yeah.
Well, and it's endless.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our business. I mean, it's endless. It's a story after story after story, and every person is individualized, and it's a new story. It's
Right.
like, tell me more.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
So tell us about Foodie Philanthropy.
Yeah. So Foodie Philanthropy is a great organization. We have great supporters. We're here at Amber Room, which is attached to Wishbone and Flint, and Stefan was one of the first people that signed on. The idea is that on one night we get restaurants. They donate a table of 10. We put a host at the restaurant, and it's they sell all the seats are okay with people joining. And there's a new charity every year that's picked. This year it's James L. West, the Alzheimer's Center, dementia. They are doing great work, but it's been a lot of different nonprofits. And then there's an after party. So you go do what you do on a Saturday night go out with friends, old friends, new friends, and have a great dinner. And then you go to an after party and see all your other friends. And this really was an idea I had in China. There's still an organization that exists called Cheer Fon for Charity. Cheer Fon means to eat. And it was, I needed something. I'd left the embassy, needed something philanthropically to do. And I remember, just it hit me that most of fundraisers at the time for organizations were big ballroom events, and a lot of money goes to the hotel or ballroom. No shame in that. Whatever works. But a lot of money was going to the venue, and then you would see, or chefs might participate, but they're schlepping all their stuff over to it, and the food never tastes the same as it does in their restaurant.
Right.
And then restaurants would be hit up for gift certificates, and so you'd see them out on a table and people, and again, no shame in that, and that's still a great way to raise funds. But if it's $100 gift certificate, no one's going to pay more than $100 for the gift certificate, right? Because you're, or if dinner for 4 or something like that. And so I really just had this idea in my head. I said, I saw this inefficiency in the fundraising model. I said, what if we have no physical space overhead? You're doing what you do on a Saturday night anyway. All we're asking the restaurants is to dedicate a table. They get to decide what the menu is, so we don't get involved in the menu. So their food costs are what they do, and or what they want to put into it. And
there's no transfer, so the food's great.
There's no transfer. It's coming out of their kitchen, and this is what I would say. There were a couple of byproducts that happened out of this. The after party was kind of just a throwaway idea.
That's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, but it was a throwaway idea in China. I was like, we have all these people doing it, we should bring them all together.
Yeah.
And what you saw happen there was people started relationships differently. Mm-hmm. How do people most of the time when you meet someone, they're like, what do you do? Like trying to figure out how to categorize you and put you.
How do we connect?
How do we connect? What the conversations were having there was like, where'd you go to eat? What did you have?
Start talking about restaurants.
They're talking about restaurants.
Yes.
And so there was tons of marketing that happened.
Yes.
And I heard a couple of times people would say, oh, da-da-da. And people, I don't care if the meal was even not that great. People had a great experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they felt they were doing something bigger than just going to a restaurant. And they were, because they bought a seat and it's going all to charity, the money that they paid. And so there had this sort of bonding experience in a different way. And they would either get a response like, oh, I haven't tried that, I need to go try it. So that marketing that happened there was like, okay, great. Or I've heard this too, people are like, oh, I went there and it wasn't really great, but you've given me a reason to go back. And that's what chef or restaurant owners want. They want you to go try them. Yeah. And if you had a bad experience, come give us another try.
Right.
And so those sort of byproducts are kind of fun, that we're like, this is an interesting part of it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sort of, when we ask restaurants, and we're blessed by the restaurants that want to jump in, and the chefs and the owners that try and explain that to them. There's all this marketing that you're getting as part of it, and just being a part of a cool network. And what's been fun here is to see some of the chefs, and as we came and transferred it and set up here in Fort Worth, that the competition that starts happening, the menus and what they're doing, and they started kind of giving each other, and we have a great camaraderie around our chefs here too, that they all realize, while they may be perceived as competition, they're all in this together. Right. And they're all in this.
We participated quite a few years.
Yeah.
And last year we went to Rise with our girlfriends, and we had a blast.
Yeah, we had a great time.
The service was good, the food was good, and then we went to the after party.
Yeah.
And
love it.
It's just it's a fun time.
And every year it's a little bit different. I mean, because we pick to go to different restaurants.
Yeah.
But it's just a great experience.
Yeah. And some of the restaurants have used it as a test menu. They've wanted to put some things on the menu, so they'll just do something different.
Too,
so it's been been thinking about this, and so
and it just seems to be growing and growing.
Yes,
seems like different more restaurants and more people that are involved and more awareness.
Yeah, we need more people to know about it, more restaurants involved. I mean, again, the money all goes to charity. So whatever we raise outside the cost of just the basic costs of which we normally have to pay for the venue for the after party, but there may be some other, all that goes to charity. So every year we've been able to give more and more to the charity of choice.
That's great. That's
great. I love that you, the after party, that you add different like bars and like Proper and all these different breweries, and and they're making cocktails and they're having desserts, and it's just a cool thing.
That's part of the fun too, is that people that, they want to participate, but how do they participate? So we brought them in, like, as you said, they can beer for the after party or other things, and it's just been, we have such a great restaurant, bar society here. It's great to help highlight those folks and figure out how we get them more attention too.
All right, we're about to talk about products now.
Okay.
Christine, you go first.
All right, so this is one of my favorite. So it's Shaper.
Shaper, okay.
Sebastian Shaper. I've probably used this maybe 25 years, and I just absolutely love it. I love that it's so flexible.
It's a classic.
Hairspray, it's classic. It's a good one. So this is my
product. Smells good. Everybody loves
there you go.
Shaper. Okay, so I have Living Proof Perfect Hair Day. It's called Advanced Clean Dry Shampoo. I love the smell of this.
Okay.
You shake it up, just spray a tiny bit, and it looks like you just shampooed your hair.
Okay.
Just fluff it up, and you're good to go.
Okay.
And I love to travel with this, and
there you go.
I just recently, I have to shampoo my hair like every other day. And I just recently went out of town and took it with me, and I only had to shampoo my hair once in 8 days. Of course, I think it was the environment I was in.
I think so.
Where were you?
But at Burning Man.
Okay, well, yes.
Yeah.
But it was
There's no showers there, people.
No, we had showers. We did. But my hair looked great every day. Like every single day. I think it's
put some
because
of that
there
in
was
it and
no
went,
humidity or whatever.
Yeah.
It was really weird. I've never gone that long. But every morning, my friend Claire goes, "Did you do your hair? Your hair looks really great." And I was like, "No, but I'm going to go with this as long as I can."
desert
What was the best
climate.
part of Burning Man? I have to ask you this question.
Days.
7 days.
I love 7 days without shampooing. 8 days I was there.
Okay.
I love art. I love
Okay.
sculptures. I love lights. I love music. I love people.
Yeah.
So my favorite thing was going around on my bicycle, looking at all the sculptures, and it's interactive. You can walk on them. You can walk through them. You can crawl on them. You can take pictures, of course.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to do on
So there are
those.
bicycles there? I just imagine
No,
it's in
you
the middle
take
of
your own
Oh,
bicycle.
Okay, I was like,
You
okay.
have to take your own
I just-
bicycle.
Yes,
You
it's
take
in the
your
middle
own.
of the desert, right?
Yes, you have to take your own of everything. You have to be self-sufficient.
Okay.
So you have to take your own food, water, bicycle if you want to do that. So it was amazing. I
Okay.
can't wait to go back next year.
Okay.
Is
there a music festival there too? Is
Yes,
that- okay.
there's music the whole time.
Okay.
Like you will never not hear music, even
Okay.
between 4 a.m. and 9 a.m.
Oh, wow.
There's never not
City
music.
that never sleeps.
Who were the big headliners? Do you remember? Or who was your favorite?
Pan and Paulo, or
Okay.
Paulo and Pan. I don't know.
Okay.
Diplo was there.
Okay,
He's
yeah.
there every
But there's
year.
thousands and
Apparently,
thousands of
Elon
people,
Musk is
right?
there every year.
Okay.
Jack Dorsey was there dancing at our soundstage, and
Yeah.
anyway,
That's fine.
yeah. Anyway, it was awesome.
Okay. that
It's
sounds
hard
fun.
to describe. If
Yeah.
you haven't ever been, you should go.
Okay. Okay.
Now, what did you bring for
Okay,
products?
yeah, we'll do mine. Okay, so I was in a rush. So I've recently got a new haircut, and I'm still trying to figure this out. I had a really hard part here, et cetera, but my wife had apparently been secretly telling my hairstylist that she wanted to get rid of that sort of hard cliff and everything else. So I just said, do whatever last time. So she's kind of done this, and I'm still figuring it out. So this is some oil, this Aragon oil that we use. That I'm still trying to figure out. It worked for the other hairstyle. I'm not sure it worked for this because then
Yeah.
it gets really oily and I don't know. So
Yeah.
I'm figuring
Your hair's
that out.
longer now.
Yeah.
Hair's longer. I don't know.
You might not need that.
I might not need it. Yeah. I might need your suggestions.
Yeah,
on what
you
I
might not need that.
And I brought another one just because this was sitting on the counter from last night. Axe, this smooth look because it was Zubal last night. And it was disco
Always wanted to
themed.
go there.
It was,
I've
yeah.
always wanted to
Your
go to the
earrings would have
Zubal.
fit in perfectly there.
Yeah.
It was disco, and so I kind of just slicked it all back. And
Well, I was
going
going
to
to say pomade would probably work really good for what you're doing now.
Maybe I'll do
That's
that.
what that
Yeah.
is.
Okay, maybe
Okay,
I'll look
cool.
into that. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
Michael, thank you so
Thank
much
y'all.
for being with us.
Oh.
Now, tell everybody how they can find you.
Sure, a few ways. I mean, you can call the office 817-392-8803. We didn't even talk about real estate brokerage. That's actually what
Yes.
really. I mean, some days
there's
gets,
so many more
I know.
interesting things about you than
It's
just
crazy.
real estate.
That's where I actually maybe get a paycheck every so often. But
Right.
Sorry.
yeah, that's okay.
Doing commercials.
He's
Yeah.
selling houses too, guys.
Yeah, that's yes. Commercial, residential property management. My partner would actually kill me if I didn't mention it as part of it. Probably.
Right.
Well, just tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah, you can find Northern Crain Realty. That's the other place. The District 3 office with Fort Worth City Council. You can find me on Facebook, Michael D. Crain for Fort Worth. All over the place. Google Michael, I don't know, whatever. You can find me all over the place.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and if you go
Michael.
to any events, you can find him there too.
Yeah, I try. Invite
event.
me.
He's
If it's a party,
everywhere.
I want to be there. So
Yes.
just invite me. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank y'all for
we
having me.
appreciate you coming
we really
on.
do
And
appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Angela.
I'm Christine.
Thanks for watching Haircolor Confessional. Bye.